Imagine a time long before giant container ships and GPS, when the vast oceans were not barriers, but highways. For ancient Asian civilizations, the sea wasn't just a body of water. It was the lifeblood of their economies, the cradle of their cultures, and the stage for some of humanity's greatest adventures. Let us set sail back in time and explore the incredible world of ancient Asian sailors and sea trade. Long before Columbus or Vasco da Gama, sailors from China, India, Southeast Asia, and the Arabian Peninsula were masters of the sea. They weren't just merchants, they were explorers, navigators, and cultural ambassadors connecting distant lands and diverse peoples. Their voyages weren't just about profit. They were about discovery and the exchange of ideas that would shape the course of history. The heart of this maritime world was trade. Imagine bustling ports from Guangzhou in China to Calicut in India and Hormuz in the Persian Gulf. What were they trading? Silks from China, so fine and coveted they were worth their weight in gold. Spices from the Spice Islands, today's Indonesia, cloves, nutmeg, and mace, that were essential not just for flavoring food, but for medicine and rituals. India offered vibrant textiles, precious gems, and fragrant sandal wood. From Africa came ivory and gold, and from the Middle East, dates, incense, and magnificent horses. This wasn't just a simple exchange of goods. It was a complex network that fueled empires and built fortunes. The demand for these luxury items in Rome, and later in Europe, was insatiable, making this maritime Silk Road incredibly lucrative. But how did they cross these vast, unpredictable oceans? Their ships were marvels of engineering. Let's start with the Chinese junk. These were not the small boats you might imagine. Some, like the legendary treasure ships of Admiral Zheng He's fleet, were colossal vessels, possibly over 400 feet long. They featured innovative designs like watertight compartments, which meant if one part of the hull was breached, the ship wouldn't sink. They also had sternpost rudders for better steering and multiple masts with batten sails that were efficient and easy to manage. Then there were the Arabian dhows with their distinctive triangular lateen sails. These sails were a game changer, allowing ships to sail against the wind, a crucial advantage in the tricky monsoon winds of the Indian Ocean. The dhows were built using a stitched plank technique, where planks were literally sewn together with coconut fiber rope. This made the hulls flexible and resilient, able to withstand rough seas. Down in Southeast Asia, mariners built ships like the Borobudur ship, depicted on ancient temple reliefs, showcasing a blend of local and foreign shipbuilding techniques. Navigation was an art form, a blend of science and keen observation. These sailors didn't have satellites, but they had the stars. They used instruments like the camel, a simple wooden rectangle used to measure the latitude of a star, and the astrolabe to calculate their position. But their greatest tool was their deep, intimate knowledge of the natural world. They understood the predictable patterns of the monsoon winds, which blew from the southwest in the summer and the northeast in the winter. They would ride these winds like a celestial railway, sailing from Arabia to India in the summer and making the return journey in the winter. They read the color of the water, the flight patterns of birds, and the type of seaweed to know when they were approaching land. It was a skill passed down through generations, a living library of maritime knowledge. So, what was life like for the sailors who spent months, sometimes years, on these voyages? It was tough, to say the least. The ships were crowded, packed with crew, merchants, and cargo. Space was at a premium. The diet was monotonous, often consisting of dried fish, rice, and hard biscuits. Fresh water was rationed carefully and often went bad. The threat of disease, like scurvy from a lack of vitamin C, was constant, but it wasn't all hardship. There was a sense of camaraderie, a brotherhood forged in the face of shared challenges. Sailors would pass the time by singing songs, telling stories, and gambling. They were a multicultural, multilingual bunch. On any given ship, you might find a crew of Arabs, Persians, Indians, and Malays all working together, creating a unique, cosmopolitan culture of the sea. They were bound not by a common homeland, but by the shared rhythm of the waves and the stars. The dangers were very real. Storms could appear with little warning, and a powerful typhoon could splinter a ship and send it to the bottom of the sea in minutes. Pirates were a constant menace, lurking in narrow straits and remote coves, waiting to plunder ships laden with treasure. The Strait of Malacca, a key choke point in the trade routes, was notoriously dangerous. Encounters with pirates were often brutal and deadly. Beyond the human threats, there were the perceived dangers of the unknown, sea monsters and mythical whirlpools that haunted the imaginations of sailors. Every safe arrival in port was a cause for celebration. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of this ancient sea trade was the incredible cultural exchange it facilitated. The ships carried more than just cargo. They carried ideas, religions, languages, technologies, and art. Buddhism traveled from India to Southeast Asia and China along these maritime routes. Islam spread from the Arabian Peninsula across the Indian Ocean, peacefully taking root in coastal communities in Malaysia, Indonesia, and southern India. Merchants and missionaries brought new knowledge. Indian mathematics, including the concept of zero, spread westward. Chinese inventions, like paper and the compass, which they had been using for navigation for centuries, eventually made their way to the rest of the world. Cuisine was transformed. Spices that were once the preserve of the wealthy became more accessible. New foods and cooking techniques were shared in bustling port cities, creating a fusion of flavors that we still enjoy today. These ports became vibrant, cosmopolitan melting pots where people from different ends of the earth met, traded, and lived together. From the majestic treasure fleet of Zheng He that projected Chinese power across the Indian Ocean, to the humble dhows that knitted together the coasts of Arabia, Africa, and India, the story of ancient Asian sea trade is a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and our innate desire to connect. These ancient mariners didn't just move goods across the water. They connected worlds, laid the foundations for a global economy, and wove the rich, multicultural tapestry of our shared human history. The echoes of their journeys still resonate today in the languages we speak, the foods we eat, and the faiths we follow. Thanks so much for joining us on this voyage into the past. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more adventures in history. Let us know in the comments which ancient maritime culture you'd like to see us cover next. Until then, stay curious.